What happened to being quieter?
I'm quieter.
He has me there, I suppose.
No, he shot people at the OK Corral.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Off Slate.
Quieter. That's perfect.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it is our favorites.
Our favorite.
Woohoo!
Their favorites.
And
Jake's
yes,
favorites.
We have Drew back because it is once again Jake's number 2. Jake, take us away.
Jake's number 2. Why did you say it like that? Jake, this is where you say, I took care of that an hour ago.
I think I
Off
could
to a
make
good
that happen
start.
if you really wanted to.
Pretty crappy start.
Right on the table.
You did on the table?
I could.
No, you couldn't. We'd have to help you up.
That's okay.
Oh
That's
my
what you're
God.
here for.
Well, Jake, can you actually tell us what we got going on?
So,
What's your number 2?
What's your number 2?
beautiful backstory on my number 2. All right, are you?
So what'd you eat?
I believe it was
all started
tacos
with-
El
I was
Cunando.
saying it all started with tacos.
See what he does? Do you see what he does?
29-year-old man, I'm getting a hot flash.
Okay, so a little bit of backstory on my second favorite movie of all time.
There you go.
It's 2009.
20 on 9.
What?
I love it.
Also acceptable 2K9.
I love that game.
It's 2K9. I'm watching TV. Or I'm watching a movie, something. I actually probably was watching like a trailer or in front of like some random hipster movie I was watching in a theater.
500 Days of Summer. Or is that 2010? No, that was 2009. Never mind. It has to be something older.
That is how
It was
time
probably
works.
something...
Stranger Than Fiction, I bet.
There you go.
I don't know. I doubt it. You think that a trailer for this would go in front of that?
No,
Regardless,
it's probably too much of a gap.
it's not important. I see a trailer for this movie, and it looks really dumb. Really, really dumb. And I call my friend Drew here,
That's me.
and I say, have you seen the trailer for this movie? It's really dumb. And he goes, no, man, that looks really good. Why do you think that? Well, it's a comic book at first. It's a what? A comic book. Really? And he sends me the comic book. So my love for this movie is his fault. We are, of course, talking about the infamous and possibly one of the greatest movies of all time of this genre.
With the worst marketing
I
ever.
was going to say that.
That's
it
true.
flopped harder than it should have.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I love this movie. It is fast. It is colorful. It is probably got some of the best editing of that decade that I've seen. I think specifically for 2010, it's probably got all of what the best After Effects could offer at the time. Like, in seriousness.
Did they
You're
use
right,
After
though.
Effects?
Like,
'Cause,
looking
like,
back
that-
at it, like, it's all the After Effects, like, to a T. Like, they got, like, the...
Yep.
They did, like, the fun split thing with him jumping out the window. Like, that was literally... I saw how they, like, did it.
Well, that's
behind the
a
scenes.
practical thing.
Yeah. It's a practical thing, but it's also just a quick split. Like, you just
Yeah.
cut the frame in half. And, yeah.
I'm talking about, like, all the lines and stuff and the blam, blam,
Oh,
blam, and the
yeah, yeah.
coins.
That's a Texas Switch'em, right? When they have a character move behind something and then pop up within a split second later, and you use doubles for it. Like, they're in there, they're far away and then they're closer. Like, Michael Cera goes behind the door, and then the body jumps through the window.
Yep.
Right. I think that's a Texas
And then
Switch'em.
that quick,
I thought Edgar Wright
that
posted
quick
about
camera
that on
movement,
Twitter.
so you can't really see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the door to
He
block.
has the, yeah.
But anyway, so as a result of this, Edgar Wright has become one of my favorite directors, possibly my favorite director. I of course read the comic books first. This movie actually came out before the end of. No, sorry. The book came out, and then a week later, the movie came out. We'll talk about
The
I-
ending later. The ending. ending.
the ending because I think it bears discussion. but also it's one of the very few movies I've seen like 5 or 6 times in theaters. The most recent being there was a Dolby re-release.
Oh, it was after we watched it?
Was that after we watched it? Wasn't that?
We
No.
watched it in
We
2018.
That's right. Okay.
And yeah.
So it's not the most recent time I watched it, but the last time I saw it in theaters was in 2018 with Jared. I saw it at least once with you. I think I went over to your house specifically to make you go see it.
That sounds true. I certainly saw it in theaters with you during its brief original theatrical run.
We see that at Star Gratiot?
Oh, we had to have, yeah.
Oh, I remember that old theater. I was there a couple times.
Yeah, it's one of the last ones still hanging around the Detroit area. We've got few left, but in any case, we've seen many a movie there, and this was one of them.
What was the Dollar Theater called? Was it Silver Cinemas?
Well, there was Silver Cinemas out at Macomb Mall. That got the death blow.
I remember that one, yeah.
There was also the sort of dollar Cinemark out at the old Universal Mall.
Is that where did we see Spring Breakers at Silver
We
Cinema?
did see Spring Breakers there.
Didn't we do like a 4-movie day or something like that?
No, my friend. That was the day we fit 5 movies in.
Oh my
5,
gosh.
sir.
It was wasn't it Spring Breakers, Wreck-It Ralph?
I
What a
think
combination!
Wasn't it like Jurassic Park?
no. I think we got Lincoln in there.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh, you watched another movie in theaters with Lincoln on the same day. That's
I
like a 3-hour
want to
movie.
say Silver Linings Playbook was in
I
there.
feel like that was over here though.
I might get... In any case.
Yeah,
Too many.
we watched too many movies in the theater. We used to make it a game to see how many we could fit into a day.
Which, if you didn't go to the camera store for half of Call Me by Your Name, you would have tied the record in 2018 by then.
I
when we
came
did
back
the
at
Best
the
Picture
wrong
Showcase.
moment for that one.
Yes, you did. You walk in, and then the peach comes out. I go, oh, Jake.
Have you seen that?
I have.
It's because real quick, there were 5 movies that day that were Best Picture nominees. It was the start was interesting because it went Dunkirk, then Darkest Hour, which are companion pieces. Call Me by Your Name was in the middle, and then there was like a
Was Boyhood one of them?
no. That's from 3 years before.
Okay.
We did see that in theaters together. Then there was like a break, and then there was The Post and Get Out.
Oh, that's right.
And you were gone for half of Call Me by Your Name. But
I remember-
you basically saw 4.5 movies in
I
theaters.
remember I specifically left because I was like, I feel like there's going to be some content in here that I don't want to see. And I left. And I
'Cause you
came
had to
back
get
right
a
at the
pick
content I didn't want to see.
You had to pick up a lens.
Yeah.
You're like, can I do that? I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I'll be here.
So all this to say, we saw Scott Pilgrim at Star Gratiot.
Are there peaches in that movie?
Yeah, I love it. There's just an energy to it. Like, in a lot of ways, it really spoke to my, how old was I? 13 years ago? 24, 25?
24.
I was told there would be no
yeah.
math.
You would have been
Well,
if you saw
we've outlawed math because Dickey's here.
if you saw it if you saw it in 2010
I definitely...
before the end. I don't know when it came out during the year, but if it was before your birthday, you'd have been 23, so you'd have been 1 year older than the main character. So it's the perfect time to watch it.
It really spoke to me, and it still does, but in a different way. Like, I can watch that and remember, like, yeah, I know why I liked this when I was 23, and I know why I like it now. But, like, because I'm a bit of a jerk, and Scott's a bit of a jerk. I relate to it that way.
I wouldn't say that.
Jake,
Yes,
if
you
your
would.
life had a face, I would punch it.
Thank you, Kim.
Nice reference.
The way Edgar Wright put this together is just beautiful. Like,
He is one of the best filmmakers of like
he's
our
becoming
generation.
one of the most versatile too. Like we were talking about earlier. Even though Last Night at Soho is not good, just not what we wanted it to be.
It's not. He has a high bar, and it didn't. I don't think it reached it, but I applaud him for trying something new. But the same year, he makes a great documentary. Has anyone seen the Sparks Brothers?
yeah.
The Sparks.
No.
Isn't it called The Sparks Brothers? Is the name of the documentary?
It is, but I've not seen it.
It's very
It's good.
Whereas,
Edgar Wright
real
documentary
quick
sounds
tangent.
interesting.
Whereas most music documentaries, great, kind of cover the big period and gloss over everything else. This one is like 140 minutes or whatever because it touches on every single studio album, and it gives it a couple minutes each and has a lot of it. Like the way it's put together, it's like it's long, but I like how every album has value. Even the ones they might not like or like their fans might not like, every album gets its time to shine. Now, like, what is it? Kimono My House is going to get the most time because that's the big breakthrough one. And they talk about Annette because Annette was coming out that year too. But that's what I really like. So it's even when he does a documentary, it's different and really good. So I like how he can kind of do anything he wants.
So Scott Pilgrim is definitely one of those movies that was in the formative part of my years where it made me want to make movies. And I know what we do is not make movies, but it made me want to be creative with what we do. And I just really appreciate it. And I don't think there's anything else that's ever going to be like this. I think this is a unique piece of, I don't want to say history because that makes me feel old, but I do think it. I do think it is an incredibly unique piece of film history.
Well, what I think is interesting is, while it's going to be on the table, a completely different medium. You know what vibes it has? Like Spider-Verse. Like it almost directly adapted a comic book to the big screen. That's very similar way that Spider-Verse did. Obviously, it's not animated in Spider-Verse is, but I think that's where it was able to take really cool liberties with stylizing everything and putting on like those lines, like those After Effects lines that you were talking about. And that's what like made it feel like a comic book moved to live action rather than just Spider-Verse did it, but they did it animated.
It also functions as a video game, so I like to say this is the best video game movie. I didn't say adaptation, just a movie that is a video game of sorts.
That's fair. I would say they lean more. I would say they lean more into the video game aspect of it because it's harder to lean into the comic book aspect. But there's just so many details that are just pulled directly out of like when they're at the party and the light switch is way up here, like it's drawn like that is a panel out of the book. I don't think you have probably read it. I know you have.
But the light switch isn't in the
is.
books. It is? I thought he said something about like that was just there, so they put it in the shot. I thought I read something like that.
I'm pretty sure it was in a book.
I can't remember though.
I don't remember either.
I would.
I almost reread the books really quickly before we did this, but
we had a very, very busy week.
Other stuff happened, and I never got a chance.
They're still in your car too, aren't they? From when I gave them back to you 2 years ago, reading them on my own.
That's because I have several copies of them.
I thought so. Just like, oh, there they are, where I put them.
But anyway,
2 years ago.
No, I just love it. It's fun. There's a rush of joy that I get when the Universal logo comes up and it's from the Super Nintendo cartridge.
I thought I read that they were going to do more with it, and at a test screening, people loved that so much they just didn't change it anymore. They just kept it like that.
I love that.
Something I go,
awesome.
yeah, that's fun.
It's so
much fun.
It might be, I think my favorite Edgar Wright movie is Shaun of the Dead, but this is like, I mean, all his movies are great, but like this is like has all the Edgar Wrightisms in it.
Yeah.
Works perfectly to tell this story.
I think when you start talking about him, it's not about this movie is better than that movie and that movie is better than that movie. I think it's just about this one is more enjoyable for me because I watched it here.
And just an absolutely amazing soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. That's what introduced me to Metric, and Metric has become very important in my life.
I stand by Brie Larson's version is my favorite.
Didn't that actually chart last year?
I could have sworn it did. You're right.
Yeah, just out of nowhere after all these years. Like, they released, I think it was an anniversary version of the soundtrack that actually... Because when you bought the album when it came out, it only had the Metric version, but the anniversary re-release had the Brie Larson version, and that combined with her newfound popularity from Captain Marvel, like that actually charted, which is amazing.
I think it's also because, and granted, essentially what TikTok is just you on like very small bubbles that keep telling you things that you love. So it could have been just a very small amount of people but it was on my For You page. That scene in Brie Larson, that music was blowing Everyone also like, do you remember how much this song slapped? And it just kept playing, and like, this song is so good. This song is so good. This song is so good. I wonder if that's why it charted again.
Did they play it at the last Metric? I feel like one of the Metric shows we went to, they played it.
I think I've seen them play it twice now. It never made it to any of their albums, but I think it was down the road released as a single by them.
What is the name of the song?
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep.
Black Sheep, and that's the Clash at Demon Head song.
It is the Clash at Demon Head.
Making sure.
But I really love the garbage sound that Sex Bomb has. It is exactly what I imagine.
Garage band sound.
It is exactly garbage rock. That is literally it is exactly what vibes the comic gives off.
Yeah, I was noticing that that harder sound is not. I don't think is from. It's Steven, right?
Yeah, Steven Stills.
It's coming from the bass. That bass is so
dirty.
Oh, here we go.
Let's get into a story about the
I love
bass,
a good
my guy.
dirty bass, but he picks it.
That's why it's so dirty, though.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so let me tell you this story, and then I'll pose a question to you, Jared. So when I was growing up and learning to play bass, learning to play guitar, we used to play in bars, and I know we're not supposed to. Whatever. My friend's grandma owned the bar.
Now, for those of you that need historical context, this is the late 1900s, a.k.a., right on the eve of the millennium.
The millennium?
The late 1900s.
That's right before the continuum, right?
You know it.
Yeah.
That's a separate conversations of things you have made me do.
We're still waiting on the world to change, bud.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Keep going. Had to be done. Proceed, Senator.
Anyway.
Senator Bing.
Stop. I
keep going.
I have to make my sentence.
Come on. Go, get it out before I
So
keep
anyway, the people that we played with had this bass, and I loved this bass. It's a Rickenbacker 4003, I think, N at that time. It's the bass that Scott Pilgrim has. I always wanted one of these basses, and then it kind of faded over 20 years of just having to do life. And, it's a $3,000 bass, so I'll never get that. And then I see Scott Pilgrim, and it lit the fire again. I'm like, he's like me, he's got my bass!
It will be mine. Oh, yes, it will be mine.
And so what you're saying, what I'm saying that to you is, it is a rock bass, so it's got that muddier tone. And side note, I have one now, so he knows what I'm talking about when I say this, and you need that context for what I'm about to say. You know how it sounds. It is that grungy sort of tone, but then it depends on how you.
I'm sorry. I also play on my knee.
And with your knee.
Well, he's like 7 feet tall, so he's way down. Chris Novoselic. Oh, Nirvana.
Yeah.
I'm sorry he's the one no one remembers in Nirvana. That poor guy.
I do actually kind of feel bad, because really everybody else,
But anyway, you're right. It's the way he's playing it, though.
The one thing I hate about that bass is I'm very specific on how I play.
In case you couldn't tell, Jake and Jared are bass knobs.
And exactly where I rest my right hand
is where the guard is.
Is where the guard is, and it drives me nuts because I don't play too close.
Why don't you just rest your palm on it?
Because it's weird to go like that. I
Why
like going like
it's
this.
Not.
It's me.
If you do that,
I don't like change. I live with my parents. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I haven't moved out, so
I'm just saying you're gonna get like the tone What's funny is it's coming from the bass, but where he's playing it on the bass, there'd be a lot more tone to it than what he's getting. What the movie okay, now we're getting into movie audio semantics. We really shouldn't.
Isn't that clay? That's ceramics.
Oh, dear God, here we go.
Anyway, where he's playing is not right for the tone that he's getting out of that bass.
Where should he be playing?
Above the guard.
So he's playing behind.
Because it's like a muffled, distortion, right? Well, back at the bridge, you're going to get more of a twang, like, accentuated sound. So you want to play up here. So do-do-do-do-do-do, yeah.
And what's his name? Todd is a better bassist than he is. I think that's the point because he gets replaced by young Neil, who one of the Letterboxd reviews is Patrick Williams. He says, like, watching young Neil in the background is funnier than most movies. And I go, so this time I was paying
punched
attention.
the highlights out of her hair.
That's a great line.
He punched the highlights out of her hair.
This is another movie that, particularly in retrospect, just top to bottom, a stacked cast.
Dude,
You know?
it's insane.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who I love to death.
Michael Cera.
Her turn on the TV series Brain Dead was fantastic.
She's also really good in season 3 of Fargo.
Certainly is. One of the Culkins that's not Macaulay.
Kieran, it's Kieran.
That's the
Who's doing great in Succession now.
That's right.
He is a beautiful. So.
Best character. That's the best character.
Oh, for
so
sure.
good.
He's the best character in the comic book,
Yep.
too. Like,
Oh,
I
my
don't mean to
goodness.
compare it too much. It's hard not to compare this one specifically because it is lifted so much out of it. The only difference between Kieran Culkin's Wallace and the comic book Wallace is the comic book Wallace. How do I say this without being offensive?
Uh-oh.
He's a little more crisp and clean in his grossness.
The comic book one, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a little bit more refined, like a little bit fancier. Kieran's is
Drier.
no
It's a little
greasier.
more like,
Greasier.
Yeah, he's a little.
It's a little bit more sleazy.
It's that sleaziness that he uses in Succession later in life.
Yeah,
he,
well,
he really brings a
It
sleaziness.
really works for the movie, and I love it. Like there's not a whole lot that I don't love about this movie.
I
was
love
in-
the line. I'm gonna back up when I say this because when they he leans over, they're like, I don't remember
Yep, I know.
which accent.
What do I do?
Yeah. Fight! I was like, yeah.
That's a good Mortal Kombat.
And then he just gave me the vibe,
Fight!
Like, let's just go. We're gonna throw hands. We're gonna duke it out. Fight!
So Drew, you've watched Fargo?
I have, yeah.
Kieran is at the beginning of season 2 and the reason for all the events taking place, right? That's Kieran?
Oh, yeah, I
The one at the diner
So.
in
I
the first.
suppose
Okay,
so.
so 2 people in Fargo, but if you know Fargo is a different setting, cast, because it's an anthology
I
series.
really need to watch that.
Yeah, so another kind of connection there.
And, continuing to round out the cast, it's got Alison Pill, a lovely Canadian actress who I've liked in quite a bit. And
Aubrey
it
Plaza
has
is great in
Aubrey
this.
Plaza, baby Anna Kendrick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Was that before Pitch Perfect?
It
Yes,
was.
by 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, I think Pitch
It
Perfect's
wouldn't have
2012.
been by a lot.
Oh man.
And
I hate life.
it's got a cast member that ties it to the Coppola cinematic universe.
Yep.
Because Francis Ford Coppola directs The Godfather. One of the stars, Talia Shire, is his sister. Her son is Jason Schwartzman, a.k.a. Gideon Graves.
I love Jason Schwartzman.
Me too.
I know,
And
right?
it's so
You
crazy.
mentioned Spider-Verse.
He's
Yeah.
in.
Second one.
He's in Spider-Verse. I spent the better part of that movie trying to figure out because, Edward Norton and him kind of have that similar, and even Ryan Reynolds to a degree kind of have that similar
nasally
tone,
kinda.
to their voice. I kept trying to figure out which one that is.
I just would hear, because
Such a good
it took
villain.
5 seconds, I go, that's Jason Schwartzman, because I was thinking Klaus.
Yes.
Like, he's always pretty similar, but, like, his Klaus character is very, clumsy and
Yeah.
zany like that. So I was like, yeah, that's Schwartzman.
I didn't realize it until it's so funny that we watched this right after watching Spider-Verse because I'm like, he's a great villain. He knows how to ham it up on screen when he has to.
He's such a
and
douche
he-
in those
he
movies.
plays a douche so well.
He's so good at it.
I
He's kind of in that same vein as David Spade too. Like it's just so
Yeah.
easy for them to slip into that persona.
It's-
Unless that's how they really act.
It's
I
funny
hope
though
not.
because
But
that speaks to the soundtrack, like what you were talking about. Like you listen to some of the commentary on the DVD. By the way, this is the only DVD I own that I have watched on multiple times. Every single special feature it has.
Oh, yeah.
I love that when you can get. Yeah, it's awesome.
a lot of the needle drops that are in the movie, but not like a song that they play, are intentional to directly speak to what is happening on the screen. Like when she gets into the car with Gideon, Under My Thumb is playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
A little on the nose, but you know what? Fair enough.
I think that's I think that
He does, though. He does, like, on the nose things like that, but, like, stylistically,
Sure.
it works for a lot. For me. At least for me, it does.
Interesting question for you, Jake. I remember recently you mentioned to me how you hate movies that get split up into chapters. And this movie is split up into chapters. Is it because of this movie at all? Because you like this and you don't like how others do it, or what?
I think it's because this had a pre-existing IP that already had it framed that way, and when you go into this knowing what that is and expecting it to be that way, it's different than the movie we were talking about was Intergalactic with Kid Cudi.
Kid
How do you
Cudi.
say it? That split up into chapters, and I always feel like that breaks the pacing a little bit. Darkest Hour was another one that did that.
I was thinking Inglourious
didn't.
Bastards also.
That,
Most Tarantino does
That
that.
is true.
I don't feel like that breaks the pace as much as it usually does, though.
It was just an
Intergalactic. I felt like really broke the pace and kind of
could work without it.
yeah.
Which, by the way, watch it, people. It's really good.
I haven't seen
It
that.
is. It's a
What
Netflix,
is- it's Netflix.
thing.
Yeah.
If you like
Another-
Spider-Verse, you'll like this.
Another.
And if you like Kid Cudi, you'll like
Love
it.
Kid Cudi, so I'm definitely gonna
He
watch
did
this.
the entire like scoring and soundtrack for it.
It's basically
It's
a Kid
nice.
Cudi album.
That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a good way to
It literally
an
is.
album
It
visualizer.
literally, and all I'll say is it's another interesting animated Netflix original that they don't promote.
Netflix
They
is
keep
wrong.
and
doing
never give
that.
and never give a physical release to.
Yeah.
It's
Because like it happened with
Netflix
Klaus,
is
it
not
happened with
wrong.
My Father's Dragon, it happened with the Sea Beast, where it's just like the Sea Beast only got exposure because it got nominated for the Oscar. Same with Klaus. Like they're not promoting these things. I think isn't The Young Prince from 2015 or 16? That's a Netflix original, isn't it? That's pretty good. And they don't
the
promote
Little
it.
Prince, the kid on the moon.
Over the Moon. Is that one you're talking
I
about?
thought he was on the moon, but
Which one are you talking?
the Little Prince.
I don't know if it's the moon. I think it's just like a planet. He's trying to get back to his planet.
Oh.
And it's got like interesting animation styles with the normal style, and like it's a good movie. I think Over the Moon is that's a Netflix movie that only got it was COVID, so people could watch it, but also they didn't push it until it got nominated for the Oscar.
Yeah.
This is a completely separate tangent, but
Now, speaking of animation, aren't they doing a Scott Pilgrim animated series
heard
coming out
about
soon?
that.
Yep.
And it's with basically all of the original cast. I'm pretty excited to see what that's going to turn into.
Yep.
I don't. Shockingly, I don't think it made it to the DVD/Blu-ray, but
It did.
I remember they did an animated short.
It did. It's
did
there.
it?
Yep. They did an Adult Swim Scott Pilgrim versus the animation,
Oh, Adult
and
Swim?
it's
I would-
it's the backstory with Kim,
That's right.
not Kim. Kim
Yeah,
Kim and Lisa.
who's not in
That's-
the movie, right?
Lisa is not okay.
Here we go.
Are we gonna get into this?
I guess we have to. We've
So
kind of
you
gone
need
that
to
direction.
explain what your problem is before I answer it with all of this.
It's kind of a thing where I have ever since I watched this with you at your apartment years ago. Which
fact,
funny, I think I was 23 when I watched it. Like perfect age to watch it because that's how old you were when you first watched it.
I think you've probably only seen this 3 times, right?
Yes.
Oh wow! Only
You,
three times.
he's been with me 2 of those 3 times.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then the third time is watching it to talk about it with you. It's all Jake centered. It's Jake's world. We're just living
It's
in
a
it.
wonder this isn't my favorite movie. What could my favorite movie? Tune in next week to find out.
Oh, I like the tease.
So
Secrets.
I watched
I
it.
got a secret.
Thank you. It's a bit robotic.
I
but
think you meant Domo Arigato.
Thank you. So, when I saw it with you, I loved it. I was like, yeah, everyone who talked about this was right. I don't know why I put this up, because that was like 2017. 7 years of me hearing about this movie, and I actually saw the guy who first told me to watch it. He bought it digitally or something. He had it on his computer back when I was in high school, because this came out when I was in high school. And he watched it weeks. every day for like weeks.
Wow.
He just kept watching it. He's like, I can't stop. You need to watch it. And I saw him in a parking lot at the grocery store like 3-4 years ago. I said, hey, by the way, it only took me 7 years, but I finally watched it. And me thinking like, oh, he probably doesn't remember. And he's like, oh, finally. Like, I hadn't seen him in like 5 years. And the first thing I say after he's like, hey, how's it going? Is, oh, I finally watched Scott Pilgrim. Only took me 7 years. He's like, oh, finally, dude. So
I remember seeing this in theaters, like when it came out, and because the craziest thing was, I'm kind of bouncing back to how poorly they marketed this. When I walked out of the theater, I saw it with my friend Noah, and I don't remember if anybody else was with us. There might have been, but we walked. I was like, that was fun. I enjoyed it. But I heard a lot of people walking out. I was like, what the heck was that? Because they didn't market it like what it was actually was. And so a lot of people didn't like it, but I'm so...
We might have to push off that marketing thing for a second. I gotta get back to my...
Oh, sorry, I just want to throw that.
So this time, because the second time I watched it with you in theater, it was even better. We were pretty close to the screen, and it was very loud, and that was perfect. Those opening credits started, and both of us kind of shot back.
There is so much hype in those opening. I don't know how they did that, but the way they just open that room up, it just
With all
it's
the different texts.
beautiful.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, so I get to this watch, and by then it's been about 5-6 years. I have read the source material. I hardly remember most of it, just because that's what happens. 2 years pass, and you hook to certain things that you remember. Your
you
bullet
say that,
points.
I remember it pretty vividly.
How many times you read it?
What?
How many times you read it?
Twice.
So, I read it pretty fast. I probably shouldn't have gone that fast, but I just couldn't stop. And so now, not remembering too much of it, but I remember getting to the end of this rewatch, and something felt wrong. Not a big negative, because I still love it, but I got to the end, and I have this weird feeling of something's missing. Something doesn't feel right. It's basically if it was like someone took a test, it's like a 99%. Like, it's great. There's just one thing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was on the phone with Jake the other day, and he basically pointed to what I think I was feeling.
So, okay, this is I'm going to be fairly serious about this because it gets into like narrative and structure and all that. The books, when they started making the movie, were not finished. If you like I said, the 6th book came out like a week before the movie. The 6th book is very, very different than it just like worlds different than the end of the movie. Because of that, I think that they swapped the chemistry between Scott and Ramona and Scott and Knives. Because there are two giant things that are missing from the story of the movie that are in the book. There is one entire book that is devoted to Scott falling in love with Ramona and fighting Knives' dad.
Oh.
As an additional, not like as an additional X, but just as a you hurt my daughter sort of thing.
I'd forgotten about that.
Interesting.
And it makes sense to not have him in the movie
Yes, because
that's
that
too
would
long.
break the pacing of the movie.
Yeah.
I could see, yeah, that makes sense.
He's great.
It's in the same book that, what's her name? Mae Whitman.
Her.
Yeah.
Roxy Richter.
Roxy Richter?
Correct.
That's what it says.
Okay, so it's in the same book that Roxy is in. So there's all sorts of interplay. But then the next book, we get someone from Scott's past, Lisa. And they mention Lisa in the movie, but they don't do anything with her. And he was kind of her first girlfriend-ish. She comes back, and there's a whole book about it. And spoilers, he ends up doing something with her where
That's right.
it gets perceived as cheating, which pushes Ramona to go back to Gideon instead of just going. So back to what I said, not having these two people in there fundamentally changes the structure of that story. And so I think that they character swapped it, chemistry swapped it, because if you watch the Blu-ray, if you watch the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, there's an alternate ending where Scott and Knives go off together. Actually, the alternate ending has my favorite joke of the entire movie. They're walking off, and they're like, "You want to go to the arcade?" I don't have any coins. And Scott reaches in his pocket and goes, "Oh, I do."
Just fistfuls of loonies and toonies.
And the reason they didn't put that in there, and you have to listen to the commentary on the Blu-ray for this, is because with test audiences, it divided. Like, it was, Edgar Wright said it was a 50-50 split. Like, younger audiences really wanted to watch him go through these battles and get the girl at the end, which is how the book ultimately ends. How the series ultimately ends. So I get that. But then the older audiences really liked seeing him end up with Knives because of the chemistry swap. Because he just clicks more with Knives. Like, even when they're fighting Gideon at the end, like,
that's the big thing.
That's a big thing. Like, and like, but also, like, the books are much more about he and Ramona's relationship. The movie is much more about him.
Yep.
And so it feels like when he's with Ramona, that's the learning mechanism to then get to where I was really mean to Knives. Now, whether she would actually take him back in reality, that's different. And again, I get the way that fans want it to end like the book. I don't really feel like something's super wrong, but I think that that's what you're feeling. Because reshooting the movie 2 years later to do that means that they probably didn't go back and rewrite the structure to make it work towards that ending. It works towards the other ending, and then the new ending is put on.
It's kind of like he goes through this whole process, and when they fight Gideon, it calls back to the video game they played. Straight up shows it's not like subtle, it's obvious. And they have better chemistry. And the other thing is, like, he shouldn't be with her because she's too good for him. Like, he's not a good person. She deserves something better.
Are you talking about he shouldn't be with Knives or Ramona?
Knives. That's another, like, perspective people have taken. I kind of agree with, like, yeah, he's kind of terrible to her.
Also, and she's a high schooler.
Yeah,
we're ignoring that for now.
It's Canada.
It's Canada, just like with Call Me By Your Name. It's Italy.
So she's what? She's 19 in the movie?
17,
but that's in metric, so what's the conversion there?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That third act, not only is it abrupt that she just jumps to Gideon, and it comes right at the fight with the twins.
Yeah.
Which, that one, it's like, it flies by, and he's introduced. It's like the last chunk of the books just gets condensed, because you don't want this movie to be too long, but it feels rushed. So when you get to that final fight, it's a great fight. It's well earned. It's got layers to it, but it's built to end up with Knives. And when he doesn't, it is kind of like, yeah, I want to do all this work and then not end up with a person I fought hard for. At the same time, it's like, we kind of built this up.
But like, yeah,
someone else.
Like he changes as a character as a result of those fights. Like, he can't say that he didn't win something even if he ends up with Knives. And you can say that Ramona's been mostly destructive throughout this entire.
Yeah.
As much as I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like that character in the movie is mostly destructive. She's very different in the comic book. It's not the same tone.
Sorry, I cut you off.
And that's to say that brings me to another point. This is a franchise that is I would call it a multimedia franchise. It has a book series, it has animated shorts, it has a video game, it has soundtrack upon soundtrack, it has one-off comic books, it has a movie, it has a card game,
an anime coming up.
Yeah. Not everything in that universe has to be the same. Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about it. And I think that's maybe what it's hard to say about it because it was made as like the second thing in the franchise. I wish that they'd have leaned more into this can be its own thing apart from the book.
So that leads me to I have a quick question. Did you say so? Did the book come out before the movie came out?
There's a bunch of books. How many books?
There's 6.
6. And the first 5 were already out. The 6th was not out yet when the movie was being made.
Gotcha. Okay, I was trying to figure
When the
out
movie came, so the 6th book came out to end the story. Like a week, like it was literally like a week or 2 before.
Okay.
I know that's like the 3rd time I've said it.
And it's good because it doesn't spoil the end of the movie.
Gotcha. And so the movie is essentially.
Well, I mean, it does spoil the end of the movie. The movie didn't spoil this thing that Brian Lee O'Malley had been working towards for however many years.
Now, all of this being said, there is a version of the script floating around that is much more in line with the comic book. Obviously it's not the final production one, but if you want to hunt it down, it is out there.
Do you remember reading it?
Oh, I mean...
Did you read it?
I read it at the time the movie came out,
Okay.
But just without being able to put a finer point on it, it is much more in line with how the books resolve.
I don't know. Do you remember about how much the way that the books resolve? I don't know how they would have done that.
I don't, but this was my recollection from the time carried forward to today. And just another stray musing. On top of the 6 volumes, I think there was also a volume 0, wasn't there? That was like a comic book store day sort of deal.
That's what I'm talking about. The one shot. There's been a couple of different like strips for Scott Pilgrim, but that's like it's a story of him and everybody going into like a grocery store and him having to battle someone for a soda or something like that. It's pretty. I have it in my collection somewhere, but
Speaking back on the Ramona being kind of destructive, which fight was it that she just kind of bails in the middle of? She just takes off, and then later he's like,
the
yeah,
Lucas
sorry.
Lee.
Oh, that was the one with
I
Chris
kind of,
Evans.
I kind of bailed. I remember thinking like,
That is one of the
my.
best choreographed fights I have ever seen.
All of them are.
But like that one specifically.
So, and when he got him to go down the ramp and just like the. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, see,
Can you do a thingy on that rail?
in the comic book though, it's so much better. I don't want to knock on my own second favorite movie of all time, but like it's funnier in the book because the speed is thing, and like right before he gets to the explosion part, it goes speed unknown, and it's just lines on the page.
I love that.
It's beautiful.
I do. Not that I've ever read the book, so I couldn't. It sounds like Edgar Wright is the only person that could have made those books into movies. If the books are very similar to how the movie is dialogue wise, like I can't imagine anybody else.
I don't know that anybody else would have the imagination to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's other people, but
he was
it
like the
really
right
is a
person.
perfect match.
It
He was the right person.
Yeah, and then he got to make Ant-Man, right? Oh wait,
Oh, kind of.
you want to speak of a movie that should have Edgar Wright cuts between some of the scene translations, and they're just not there, and you're sitting there like, this feels like what did you say? Diet Right. That's Jake's. Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, man, I just lost it. Can someone talk?
Jake, I've got a question directed at you.
Oh boy.
When you started eating meat again, did it suck to lose your vegan powers?
I was never vegan. I was an ovo-lacto vegetarian, maybe.
Okay, so is that like an apprenticeship to vegan sort of thing?
It
Yeah.
sounds like something you do after you give birth.
Once you were
Gelato?
vegan,
Now you will be gone.
Gelato's not
Vegan.
vegan? Come on, someone say it. Gelato's not vegan? It's milk and eggs, bitch.
Chicken's not vegan?
Chicken's not.
Right on.
Wasn't that? Who was that? It was some.
Thomas Jane, and who was the other one?
Yeah, I'm looking. It was like someone that I recognize.
Which again, just top to bottom stacked cast.
What is his name? Oh, Clifton
Brandon.
Collins Jr.
That might be my favorite Brandon Ruth role.
Is it really?
I I don't think I've seen him in much, but
I know his Superman kind of got crapped on, but I liked it.
I liked his Superman.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Christopher Reeve, which is what I think they were going for.
Because it's a direct sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, did anyone recognize Bill Hader as the narrator?
Yes.
Only because of the credits. This is the first time I'd noticed
because
that.
I did notice his name, but I was like, wait, I don't remember Bill Hader in this. What did he do?
Long time ago, in the mysterious land of Canada.
That was Bill Hader.
Yep.
Scott Pilgrim
if you
was
listen to it
dating a
knowing
high
it's him,
schooler.
you're like, yep, that's Bill Hader.
Oh,
I love Bill Hader.
I need to watch this movie again ASAP so I can listen to Bill Hader's voice.
It wasn't mutual. He was dumped. It was brutal.
So that's the other beautiful thing. All those little tiny graphics that are like drawn are actually drawn by Brian Lee O'Malley. Someone else did not draw those. He actively drew them for the movie.
That is awesome.
Yeah. What was I going to say? There was something. Someone help me. You've all seen this more than me. I can't remember the line. It's when Wallace is making bacon and basically tells Scott, I'm kicking you out. There is a back and forth or a line delivery from one of them that killed me, but I don't remember how the conversation went. I should have written it down in the moment, but I was laughing too hard.
Was it double standards? I didn't write the gay Bible. Take
That's
it
it,
up with
that's it.
Liberace's ghost.
That's it.
That's such a good line.
It's like double standards. I didn't write the gay Bible.
I also, I haven't, so this is the first time I've watched it where I have appreciated the Seinfeld needle drop. For the first the first number of times, it feels awkward, not a place. It felt
With the
awkward, not a
cheering and all
place.
that.
He does
But,
the
this time I was
Kramer
like,
entrance.
I was like, no, this is good. Also, we talked about it already, but him jumping out of that window when Knives shows
Oh
up.
my
So
god. He just left.
I lose it every time.
When he says, he just left, and then she does this. She kind of looks. What does she say? When will we be back? Or is it she sees it but doesn't notice it, and he's walking behind her?
that's what it is. It's the visual comedy. There's so many good edits and cuts and just reactions.
Also, did y'all notice the ninja drummer? How she fades into the wall? She becomes invisible as that scene progresses.
Real quick, we're in Michigan. We don't say y'all here.
Sometimes.
Touche. I've been hanging around him too much.
Get it right or pay the price.
Anyone notice? I can't remember his name. The guy that Wallace starts making out with during the first fight that he steals from his sister.
Yeah.
He looked like Hayden Christensen from Shattered Glass with
Oh,
the glasses.
fair enough.
I was like,
That's fair. Okay.
I know that's not
I can
him.
see
That
that.
looks just like him.
I can totally see
The
that.
short hair, the glasses, the eyebrows.
Hey, does
It's
this band
also
rule or does this
the-
band suck?
That was a test, Jimmy. You
Jimmy,
passed.
there you go.
Oh, another great line delivery. The wheel in his head. I'm gonna go pee on her.
Or crashing the boys.
I'm sorry.
Is that girl a boy? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's another young Neil moment that made me lose it. It's we up against Crash and his boys. It's who is that? That's Crash and his boys or something. I hate them. I can't remember how it went, but it was another young Neil moment that made me lose it.
So what do you play? Oh,
That's a big question.
I don't know, Zelda, Final Fantasy.
Garlic bread is one of my favorite foods. I'd honestly eat it every day, all day if I could.
Then you get really fat.
What?
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
There's so much dialogue from that movie that I have just integrated into my day-to-day life. Whenever someone asks me if I know something, I know of it. Hey, you know your hair?
Oh, Michael Cera, he kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a bit. It seemed like
He has swapped with the. What is it? What is the meme?
it goes him.
He
And
used to
then-
be the high budget Michael Cera. Now he's
yeah.
kind of the
Him,
low budget
Andy
Michael Cera.
Samberg,
and Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, just that's the one. Jesse Eisenberg was the low-budget Michael Cera. Now Michael Cera's the low-budget Michael Cera.
Wait, hey, as of recording this, Barbie's not out.
was
The
about to mention
Renaissance is
I
beginning.
was about to mention Barbie.
I
Thank
am
you.
so excited
was
for
old-
that. I
he
have
was-
high hopes.
So to be fair,
Michael
he
Cera
was
was gonna be-
he was also the best part of This Is the End.
He was so good in This Is the End.
And we hate that movie. By
Yeah,
the
no,
way.
I
don't know
hate
if you
that
saw
movie, but he
episode.
is so
He picked
funny.
it
Yeah.
for a party. I think it was Party Movie.
Yeah, it
and he
was.
loves it, and we hate it.
Was he the one that's like, hey, what does this cocaine smell like?
He's He's the one that he slaps Rihanna and she wails on him, and apparently
That
she
actually happened.
yeah they told her to not hold back, and so when she hits him hard, I think was it Jason Segel's behind going like you know a slap you hear like the palm, you can hear like her knuckles getting him. Like, it's a hard slap, and he's barely in the movie because
He dies.
Yes, he dies
gets
early.
impaled.
So I love Michael Cera so much.
You know, Michael Cera also ties into, again, going back to the poor marketing for Scott Pilgrim, you know, he basically is the poster, but you don't know that it's him. And there was a comedian, I wish I could give them credit, but I don't remember who it was, talking specifically about the poor marketing for Scott Pilgrim, and his whole bit was like, all right, Michael, stand there with your bass. All right, now get your head lower. No, a little lower. No, a little lower for me. You know, and that's...
So it's the one that I have right here.
That's exactly
the main
it.
one where it's just him crouched down.
Just the top of his head.
The beautiful thing about that poster, though, is it's a panel from the comic. It's
Oh,
an
really?
opening page.
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's
That's
literally
cool.
a title for the. Oh man, I love this. He was more of the pretentious hipster, so he didn't watch garbage movies like that.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, because I remember they said this was supposed to just, it was like a fun, like a normal movie. I say
Normal movie.
I say normal movie. But it wasn't, like, they never said it was like,
Hey,
this
are
actually
you
might
a
have
pirate?
Been, this actually might have been my first
Pirates are
Edgar
in this
Wright
year.
movie I ever saw. And so that's the other thing why I wasn't like, what am I walking? What was that?
It was just something where I was very disconnected from a lot of things that were like
Popular.
current. Because I wouldn't call this popular when it came out.
That's fair.
Surely not.
But I was in that because the only social media I had was Facebook. I didn't have a smartphone, so I was just not plugged in. So when I heard about this movie, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, okay, it's a movie. And then everyone started talking about it later. But I'm just wondering, you three that remember, what else about how it wasn't marketed well? Like, what are some of the things?
You know how trailers kind of talk about the movie?
Yeah.
I feel like they didn't do it well. Like, there was no mention that it was... Not that movies need to do that, but if you're going to make a movie about an IP, you kind of need to mention that it comes from an IP.
I had no clue this came from a book. I had zero idea. I just went to it because we thought it looked, oh, this looks fun. Let's go see it. But like I said, it made no mention. Nowadays, you get obviously Edgar Wright has a little bit more under his belt. But was this really quick question? Was this his like second?
It was his
third?
If
third
you
movie.
count his debut, I think it was his fourth. If you count that
It
debut,
came
no
out
one can
before
watch.
World's End, for
Yeah,
sure, because
which is-
World's End was like the year after, or maybe the
3 years after.
Yeah.
Because
I don't-
there's Fistful of Fingers is the one just no one can watch it. That's the debut. But if you don't count that, then you have Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then Scott Pilgrim.
Okay.
This might be a hot take because everybody loves Hot Fuzz, and I don't
I'm not a
know
giant
that I
fan.
understand why. I don't.
I need to
click with-
rewatch
I
it though.
personally-
I
I've
think
only seen
it's
it once.
just that one is the most British of all of them.
It is very But I was just
I would say that this is the most approachable movie to a non-Edgar Wright fan that he made. I would say up until Baby Driver. I think Baby Driver is kind of
That's the one people who
more
are younger
approachable.
jump to when you mention, like, oh, Baby Driver. It's like,
because that's
Interesting.
got a lot of that Edgar Wright style, but it's an action movie.
yeah.
yeah.
Or as some people say, it's a musical, which I agree with.
I can see
In
that.
a way, yeah.
That's
But
fair.
I was just gonna.
There's choreography to songs.
See,
Well,
well,
it's a
Cars.
roundabout way of saying that I'm surprised they didn't have his name more on it because, but obviously that's hindsight's 2020. Like he's super popular now, he probably wasn't as like a big name to push on your advertisers. Like this is an Edgar Wright movie, nobody really cared as much.
this was certainly the first of his that got, like, as I remember anyway, a big, like, American push. I remember, like, Hot Fuzz sort of got big here a little after the fact, but this was, I guess his earlier films had a more of an English, sort of British sensibility, and
I
this is more relatable to North American audiences because it has a tragically Canadian sensibility.
Or Canada/North Montana, if anyone gets that movie reference.
I
Oh, okay.
So, like, this would have been the second Edgar Wright movie that I watched, I think.
Shaun of the Dead first.
Yeah, because I think you and I watched that freshman year.
Great
Yeah, that tracks.
Because you told me about the Coronado trilogy, and I thought, Cornetto? Cornetto. And I was like, well, how does it all connect? And you're like, it doesn't. It connects because it has a Coronetto ice cream thing in each one. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Dumb American brain.
And younger, dumber Jake, as you've talked about.
Oh yeah.
When you're first getting into
let's
movies.
have Drew give some comments on my freshman year movie collection.
All right. Anyone got snacks?
I mean,
Don't be nice. Be mean. Be mean.
within the context of its time, it made a lot of sense. But charitably, a lot of his picks have not weathered the test of time. But to be fair, I think that could be said of most of us.
What's the one you most remember me having?
Oh, that's sort of a big question.
We've
remember,
got time. We're here.
I feel like Transformers was rolled up in there.
A Michael Bay stan.
What?
Michael Bay stan over here.
I remember you were real into Road to Perdition for a little bit.
That's a good movie, though.
Yeah.
I'll give him that one.
I don't know, man.
I'm waiting for some of the other ones that I know were there that I know he.
I'm trying to cut you some slack
Don't
here,
cut him
but
slack.
if you
Don't.
want to,
Let it ruthless. I want ruthless.
I'll be charitable and say your choices were not as bad as some of the movies I forced you to buy down the road. So you know what?
That's fair. Okay.
One day we will watch that copy of El Chupacabra.
I was waiting for that.
What will we do with the NT and the packaging when we do? We gotta I don't know if we could burn it, but we gotta do something with it to commemorate.
You bring that to the airport, you can trade that bad boy in for about $3.33.
This is a complete side tangent, not at all related to Scott Pilgrim, but one of my favorite movie stories. So I have a copy of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
In what format?
DVD.
Okay. Is it like the Kubrick collection DVD, the white case that they all have?
It has a white case.
Uh-oh. I like this. Keep going.
So,
I have a logistical question. Can it be classified as an X rental if it was never really taken out of circulation?
What did you do? How did you?
That was beautiful. Well done.
What kind of getaway would that look like?
A very hobbly one.
I was gonna say that's like, do we chase him? No. Let's just give it to him.
So okay.
It's 2001.
So have we said what college he graduated from?
Who?
Dickey.
I think we have. You both have talked about it. I sit here like a third wheel.
So at Grand Valley, there was a Blockbuster at the time up the road. I had never seen it in 2001: A Space Odyssey, so I went to rent it. That was freshman year. That was like October freshman year.
So like 2005.
Five. Come May of 2006, I went, I never returned this.
Whoops. Well, you got to pay $5 now.
Then May of 2008 came around, or 2007. I never took this back. Then May of 2008 came around. The Blockbuster's closing.
How about that?
And now I look at it and just laugh on my
So
shelf.
it does have a white case.
They never sent me
A notice?
email or a notice or
Hear
anything.
this, Blockbuster? Jake still has your movie.
See, if they
Don't
were
charge
closing,
for it.
at that point, if you just walk up, hey, I rented this a couple years ago, do I have to, give it back? They probably would no.
Now, full disclosure, I am not an attorney, but it sounds like you've got yourself a solid case of adverse possession there. You had ownership of it. It was open. It was notorious. You flaunted the ownership of it. Nobody cares. That's now your copy.
Oh, it's been my copy for a long time. The only sad part about it is that it doesn't have the artwork of the case.
Yeah.
It's just a Blockbuster
Speaking
case.
of keeping things, I remember, again unrelated to Scott Pilgrim, but related, in 6th grade, at the end of the year, my teacher had a couple VHS tapes on her shelf, and I saw one, and I was like, I've always wanted to see that. I'm like 12 years old, and she's like,
I've always wanted to see that.
yeah. I was like, hey, I noticed that, and she goes, yeah, you want to borrow it? I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, just give it back to me after the summer.
Why do I feel like I know where this
And
is going?
it came down to I'm so socially awkward. I was too nervous to ever go to her room, and I never gave it back. But I wonder if she just forgot about it. But as the years go on, it's still on my shelf.
What
This was
movie is it?
2007. The movie was 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know what's funny? That was literally like a year after yours started. 2007. It was like May of 2007, or May or June, because that was school got out. So while you were reflecting on, hey, I've had this year, I borrowed it and never gave it back. I don't even know if she's still living.
You know what?
Like, I have no idea where she is, but I still have her copy.
What was her name?
I'm not saying it on here.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe cosmically, this was just a thing. I mean, it could be when you checked that out from Blockbuster, they just knew on some level that they were not getting that back.
It was just meant to be.
You know the funny thing? I popped it in my DVD player probably 3 times. Drew knows that I have a habit of falling asleep while watching movies.
Can confirm.
I think you
And
probably
too.
know that too.
I watched half of World's End without you. Edgar Wright, not Pirates of the Caribbean, by the way. I have to
Very
specify.
clear distinction that needs to be made.
Yeah, I like The World's End.
So I popped this movie in a couple of times. I have never made it past where the monkeys hit the monolith.
That's not even that far.
You understand that's the opening credits, right?
That's like, what, the first half hour?
Yeah.
So you're talking, you didn't even reach the bone transition that everyone talks about?
I have seen that once in my life.
That's so. Oh my god.
Now imagine, here's the funny thing. So here you are in college not being able to get through it, and there I am 12 years old. Oh, actually I would have been 13 by that point.
I can't believe
And
your parents would have let you see that when you're in 12.
I didn't tell them. I went down to the basement. I popped it in our VHS player, and I'm sitting there watching. I watched the whole thing. I was bored out of my mind. But for years, it's like, yeah, I've seen that. And then about 2020, I was talking with a friend, Hammy, who's been on this podcast, because he was talking about how he saw it in theaters at an Alamo Draft House, and it's kind of ruined it because you can't watch it any less than that now, because that's like the ultimate way to watch it. And then I realized something. I have only watched that movie once, when I was 13. That is more than half my life ago. And that was gross. And I was like, yeah, I gotta watch that again sometime. And then I don't. Because it's like, in the back of your mind, it's like, I just remember being so bored. And I know it's really good. I'm probably respecting it more than I'm liking it. But also, I am much older now. It's probably different. But I remember the monkeys thing, like, what am I watching? What? Okay, throws the bone. What? What?
On a great way to bring it all the way back to Scott Pilgrim. I love that because I think what you said is so true when it comes to like 2001 and like other movies like slower that are like a little bit hard to rewatch. It's like you remember them being a slow in your head. It's like I don't know if I want to rewatch it again. It's a kind of a slog. But that's where I love stuff like Scott Pilgrim or anything else like this high octane or fast moving. It's rewatchable.
Oh yeah.
I could watch this every day and be fine with that. But like 2001 or something like that, it's like, oh, okay, you gotta settle on time. And
Edgar Wright and Wes Anderson I bring up because they are both contemporaries, of course, because of when they make movies. But they put
different.
But I'm saying they put a lot of detail into the movies, so it makes you rewatch them.
yes,
Like Edgar Wright does, like when they're showing Wallace and Scott's apartment, and it's showing all the stuff and who it belongs to. Wes Anderson does that in like every shot of every movie.
That is true,
There is so much detail, and they are very different. I'm just saying they both do the thing where because they're very detailed, they're very rewatchable. Wes Anderson's pacing is way different than Edgar Wright's. They're completely different types of filmmakers, but I mean they started around. I think. Does anyone know when Fistful of Fingers was? I can look it up, but
not a clue. That's
I'm looking because 95 and I think Bottle Rocket's like 96. So their debuts are around the same time. one's made more movies than the other. Because Edgar Wright has like 6, right? 5 or
Not
6.
a lot, yeah.
And Wes Anderson's newest movie, which isn't out as of this moment,
But it's
technically,
coming out soon, baby. I'm
Yeah,
so
it
excited to
is.
watch that.
is like his 9th or 10th.
Or it's
Yeah.
out in some markets now.
Yeah, it's limited. As of recording this, by the time this comes out, it's been out.
definitely
But
yeah.
and we're
So I
talking
have to
about
watch the French
Asteroid
Dispatch before I
City.
get there.
I have to say it like that because their stupid Michigan accent gets rid of the E. And then when some of us write it down, they realize they left the E out. Because how do we say it?
I do.
Asteroid.
I didn't realize I didn't see you
Yeah,
point that out.
I didn't
notice
It's
it.
asteroid.
Asteroid.
Yeah. You're dropping that E.
I don't think
Do
I
people
am.
actually say asteroid though?
Yes,
Oh,
they do.
I feel like it's
Because I look at the spelling on the poster, I go, oh crap, there is an E. I say asteroid.
It's asteroid, yeah.
Because we're like, it's like a little click. That's the E. We've reduced the E to a click. It's in that same vein of Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Secretariat.
We like to
Secretaria.
we
Secretariat.
like to combine words and say them a little
Yep.
bit quicker than usual. It's the Midwest.
So it's just something we do, and I just noticed about that.
Yeah.
Well, if there's one thing Canada's taught me, it's that there are several letters in words that are optional.
Oh,
Like Toronto.
Toronto.
Oh,
Toronto.
speaking of that. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Or
Go-
superfluous U's in words that shouldn't have them.
Or Q's that should have a K instead.
you know what movie taught me that they say Toronto, not Toronto in Canada? Argo.
Oh, fair enough.
He's going over the fake identities, and they say, "Where are you from?" And they say Toronto.
I really
Canada. He
love
goes-
that movie too.
And he goes. I think it's that scene where he's like, Canadians say Toronto, not Toronto, bang your dad or something, and he's
Yeah.
being really harsh because he has to be. But I was like, so they do say Toronto because that's how I say it because I'm a stupid Michigan person who will deify their T's or just drop them all together
Yeah.
or like interrupted.
Asteroid.
Or don't forget mitten.
Mitten.
Asteroid.
Yeah,
You don't say
mitten is what you're supposed to say. Mitten.
No, it's just mitten.
Mitten.
Yeah.
It's mitten in the mitten.
It's mitten. Anyway, back to Scott Pilgrim.
I watched a Wes Anderson movie with her.
Which one?
Fantastic Mr. Fox. 'Cause it's on
That's
Disney+.
right.
Yeah. What were you saying, Dickie?
Anyway, you guys got anything else you want to mention about this fantastic movie
Yes.
that we were talking
So
about?
that is another thing that Drew and I have in connection with this movie. The fight with Lucas Lee takes place at a castle, Castle Loma. We have been to said castle. It is hella sweet.
On location in Toronto. They've shot a bunch of movies there. There's a part in the basement where they've got like a bunch of posters of all the movies that were shot
cool.
there.
Is that in the wine cellar?
Cool.
Yeah, that was like, you remember like there's that deli in the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was down there. The ones I remember off the top of my head is what was the Jackie Chan movie with Jennifer Love Hewitt?
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
Was that the Tuxedo?
that sounds right. I'm going to type it in.
And Caveman's Valentine, the pretty solid Samuel L. Jackson movie that flopped because it came out within, like, I don't know, I think a couple weeks of September 11th.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
Yeah, so anyway, very cool tour. If anyone's ever in Toronto, it's worth a stop.
But
And you can do a grind thingy on that rail.
I'm
but
gonna do that.
so one thing I always laugh about when I watch the movie is remember how it was under construction?
Absolutely,
That
I
is
do.
the same scaffolding in the same place. It was still under construction in the movie. What? 5 years later?
No. We were there summer of 07, and so
07?
that was probably shooting 09.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
They were
Within
still under
reason.
construction.
within reason.
I bet you they started around the time you went, and then they just never finished.
Yeah.
It's still going, I bet.
It's still
It wouldn't
scaffolding-
surprise me.
almost
That thing
20 years later.
and now it's like,
I would-
when are they going to be done with construction? No, that's part of the castle now.
Things like that I think are just constantly in construction, but like restoration construction.
Yeah, well, that and I-75.
well, at
From
some point,
696.
at some point, you have to put up scaffolding to do maintenance on the scaffolding.
It just keeps going.
It's a paradox.
Yeah.
But
That
yeah,
is-
Scott Pilgrim, so much of it, arguably almost all of it was shot on location in Toronto. So even a lot of the venues that they play their concerts at are real venues.
Like the rocket. Are they actually called?
Yeah, no, I think that's just
Because I know
up
that
what it is.
in the book, like, all the places with signs are actual places in Toronto.
Or like, there's that one scene where they're having pizza at a local pizza franchise, which, contrary to their slogan and the text and all that on the signage, is totally not affiliated with Little Caesars.
Yeah, because it's orange, too.
It is.
That's right.
But totally different franchise. So,
Weird.
anywho.
That whole sequence has one of my favorite quotes in the movie, too. The next click you hear is me hanging up the phone. The one after that is me pulling the trigger. I love Chris Evans.
He's
He
needs to play more villains. He's great as villains.
Still waiting for another banana in his butt.
Oh my god.
You know, Jake, that quote always reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from one of the later seasons of Community, you know? If I have to come over there, you're going to hear two sounds. Me hitting you twice.
Who said it? We've all seen Community. Who said it?
Jeff
That-
said
okay,
that.
that
too.
sounds
I
like
forget
a-
who
That sounds
says
like a
it
Jeff
to.
line. It absolutely
Me
does.
hitting you twice.
Didn't they announce that they're getting a movie
They
for
are.
that?
They
Oh, it's
absolutely
probably
are.
stalled now because as of recording this,
Writer's
all the
strike.
strikes.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything else?
I think I've covered everything.
It was AMPTP. I got it. Okay, sorry. Just want to double check. Yeah, that's all. I love this movie.
Great.
It's a hard movie to not love.
It really is.
Like
it comes down to because you find those people that are like, it's fine. I don't know." It comes
that's
down to
my wife.
preference,
They're a victim of the marketing. That's all it is.
100%.
or they just don't vibe with
The style.
the style and the humor. Like I get it. Some people are because
is-
some of this it's a very specific humor, and weirdos like us love it. I'm just gonna say it. We're weirdo freaks, and we love it.
Absolutely.
But there are other people that they like things being more straightforward and dumb.
Yeah,
And
actually,
it's okay.
This is pretty
Actually-
straightforward and dumb.
In a different way. It's got its own spin on it.
You
Because
are
I would argue
You are
this is
right, though.
convoluted and dumb. But
Because I'm gonna say, actually, you saying that reminded me of something. I think I saw this with, it was me, my friend Noah, and our two dads. And we walked out of it, me and Noah, we loved it. Our dads was like, what the heck was that? So yeah, absolutely.
that would be more of an age gap thing because it
Yeah.
tailors to our generation a lot more
100%.
than them.
This is the type of
100%.
thing that is going to get when we start having children.
We're going to show them this
Yes.
movie, and they'll either love it or hate it.
But if they
Absolutely.
hate it, they'll watch it again in 20 years and love it because
Yep.
they have nostalgia from us
Because
showing it.
the
Yep.
big thing will be it'll remind them of us. And they'll be like, you know what? I was kind of forced to watch it, and that's why I hated it. But now that I watch it on my own, it reminds me of them and the good times we had.
Like Top Gun.
You had to ruin a good thing, Jake.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness that I watched that at like 15, and I was mad. I wasted my time. And I go to my dad thinking like,
Did
what's he
you
gonna say? 'Cause
waste your
it is
time?
it is one of those dad movies. And I
It's
go to
such a
my
dad.
dad, and he just goes, "Oh yeah, I don't like that movie." His review that I still use to this day is, "Everything in the air is kind of cool. Everything on the ground is dumb." I go, yep. He actually, while he was seeing the movie, he told me, because I work in a movie theater, he comes out for Top Gun Maverick and goes, "Everything on the ground's not so dumb this time." Thanks, Dad. He actually liked it. My mom loved it. And I said, "Oh,
I
rewatch the
mean,
first one."
Maverick is
I'm
a
sure you'll
good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I still have to see it.
Did you see it?
I did.
Good.
I still have to see it.
I'm generally on board with anything that's got Jennifer Connelly. What can I say?
Fair enough. Well, on that note, thank you for listening to today's incredible episode on Scott Pilgrim. And once again, we are going to have our very special guest, Drew. Where can the good people find us online?
Alrighty, these guys can be found on the Facebook machine, Twitter, Instagram, the always funny TikTok, and in the world of podcasting, you can find them on whatever it is Apple's calling their podcast service now. Spotify, Google, YouTube, or generally your podcatcher of choice.
iHeartRadio is also included.
iHeartRadio is also
All
included.
right. So I'm going to interrupt you here for a second.
for it.
I just want to thank Drew for showing up for this.
Thanks, Drew.
He's been in here for 3 episodes now. We really appreciate having you. You're always welcome here.
Always a pleasure.
I don't care what these two people say.
Never again.
I am extending a welcome to you anytime you want to come and talk about whatever.
I will build a bed in the corner
Careful,
for
I
you
may
to
take
live
you
here.
up on that.
I will build a bed in
Just
that
don't make
corner
me watch
so
Blue
you can
Velvet again.
replace him
Oh, I see
and
how
be
it
here
is.
every day. You never get to leave the room. I have the only key, and I'm going to lock it, and you'll just live in here.
Now that sounds like a different kind of movie.
I'll feed you.
It's not
Do you
the
want me
food
to?
I'm worried about.
But seriously, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Old chum.
Do you want me to announce my favorite pick so they can
Go for
prepare
it.
for next week by
Go.
watching my number one, guys? Now I'm not myself kind of scared to watch this because I haven't watched it in a while, and just talking about it specifically with Debbie Downer over here.
Debbie Downer?
Sorry, the pessimist.
William Peter Blatty's the pessimist. Is it William Peter? Did I get that
It
right?
is. You did.
Yeah!
My favorite movie of all time is one that I really connected with. I got an actual emotional reaction out of me in the theater, which Dickey should find shocking. Is A Silver Linings Playbook. Check it out before next week's episode, and we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. So yes, make sure to check us out a week from today, or whenever you want to just get your fix on the Off Slate crew. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We will see you guys next time.
Dab.